to share with you today a technique that I was playing around with using some of the Ranger Distress inks. I wanted to do a little bit of experimenting, and I created these two background images, and I'll show you how I did these. What I like about the effect is that the layers lay over each other, but you can see the colors underneath. It creates a very subtle use for some of your inks, even your darker inks. This purple is the Dusty Concord, and if you stamped it just by itself, you would get it that dark. But what I'm going to do with it, we're going to end up with a much lighter version of the Dusty Concord. So, what you need is a spritzer bottle and your inks. You can use the Ranger Distress inks. You can also use Stampin' Up! Inks or any other dye ink. Something like this is a really good use for some of your discontinued colors, like the Bermuda Bay. If you've got a lot of the paper left over, you might be saving this color to go with it, but if you have used up the paper and you don't really need to match it to anything, then it's a real good use for those. Okay, and I'm going to show you on a piece of white cardstock. Okay, and I happen to be using Stampin' Up! White cardstock. So what I'm going to do is put some Victorian Velvet ink on my craft sheet and just spritz it once. Well, I'll have to do twice because I didn't get much water out there. Just a little bit of water, doesn't take a lot. I'm using a fairly intricate image. This is out of the Lacy and Lovely set. I wanted to see what I could do with the more intricate images and some water-based inks. So we'll use a nice fluffy brush, and then I'm just going to paint the ink onto this stamp. So you don't want to get a real heavy treatment or a real heavy amount of water. And then what you get is a very subtle effect. Do another one here. You can usually get a couple of stamps from your one spritzing. And that's getting a little bit lighter. But that's the type of effect. And depending on how much ink you put on, you can get a darker effect or you can end up with a little bit lighter effect. Now, this is similar to Stamping Off, but it's different. An example, here's one where I used the same Victorian Velvet ink, and I started with the original color, and I stamped off, and this is the final stamped off version, and you can see how the image is starting to deteriorate. And in these, it's still there's still a lot of image there. You're not losing the clarity of it as much. So what I ended up with after I did several colors are these pretty backgrounds, and now I have to decide what I want to do with them. What I'm thinking of is to use the backgrounds with some odds and ends sort of embellishments that I have. I have a couple of newer things, these washi tapes from My Mind's Eye. And then I have some things that have been in my stash for a long time. I have some little tickets that came from, I think these are American Crafts, I'm not positive about that. But I have these cute little tickets. I have this from K & Company, a sticker that I can apply. And I have some chipboard, and what kind of started this color scheme was this rose, what do they call these, bloomers from Webster's Pages. So I think I'm going to pull some of these together and do kind of an artsy card. So I'll work on that and come back and show you what I've done with the background. Here's what I did with the background. I used those elements I mentioned earlier to create this collage type of card. I really like the washi tape and the frame divided. I'm not sure about the other elements. This is kind of a departure for me. I don't do a lot of these kinds of cards, but it is a way to use some of the things that maybe you've had for a while, or that you just want to kind of move on out of your embellishments. You know, trying something a little, at least in my case, a little bit different. This card is a lot more my style. I continued to use the Lacy and Lovely set to do a couple of images, and I also added the Quintessential Flower Punch to get my scallop background here, and then just did a real simple little tag using the corner rounder for the thank you greeting out of here. and some washi tape and a little bit of Doodlebug twine, and that's it. I like cards like this more than this one because I like the simplicity of it, and also I can duplicate it. If I like this card and I want to make more of them, I can make as many as I would like because there's nothing really special here in terms of materials. Anyway, but these are some ways to use a background in a couple of different kinds of cards. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll check out my blog for other projects.